am not a speaker at all. And I'm not going to make any exception on this occasion, except to say thank you for all that you have done for me. Thank you.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born on the 18th of July 1918 into the Thembu royal family of the Xhosa tribe, but to a branch of the royal family that was ineligible to inherit the throne. The revolutionary anti-apartheid leader, however, was destined to play the greatest role in modern South African history. Both his parents were illiterate, but being a devout Christian, his mother sent him to a local Methodist school when he was about 7, where his teacher gave him the name Nelson.
When I went to school, the lady teacher, Miss Mdingane, asked, "What is your name?" I told her my African name, Rolihlahla. She says, "No, I don't want that one. You must have a Christian name." So I say, "No, I don't have one." She says, from today you are going to be Nelson."
Mandela first worked as a night watchman at Crown Mines, his first sight of South African capitalism in action. He later secured a job as an articled clerk at a law firm run by the liberal Jew Lazar Seidelsky, who was sympathetic to the ANC's cause. There, Mandela befriended a few communists and started attending their talks and parties. He was impressed that Europeans, Africans, Indians and coloureds were mixing as equals. He still held the view that black Africans should be entirely independent in their struggle for political self-determination.
It was when I came into the African National Congress that I realized that Xhosas are only a part of the African people. That the task of the ANC was to unite the African people and out of them build a nation.
He was influenced by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong. In 1952, the ANC began preparation for a joint defiance campaign against apartheid with Indian and communist groups, founding a national voluntary board to recruit volunteers.
In the beginning, as a young man, he was influenced by those leaders who were already engaged in building a movement against the struggle, particularly leaders like Walter Sisulu, who brought him within the ANC fold, and also there was Dr. Yusuf Dadoo and Monty Naika. These are the people who had early influences, but later on he founded the ANC Youth League and he moved up the ladder of leadership because of his tenacity of purpose, because of his moral courage.
They chose the path of non-violent resistance of Mahatma Gandhi, which Mandela insisted was pragmatic.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Indeed, India played an important role in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, and Mandela himself drew inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi.
The policies of Mahatma Gandhi, of Satyagraha and non-violence are very much pertinent, very much relevant today as they were in the days of Mahatma Gandhi. And the fight in the world for the promotion of peace is actually based on non-violence.
It is a strange coincidence that Mahatma Gandhi launched a satyagraha on September 11, 1906 at the Empire Theatre in Johannesburg. Today, 9/11 has an entirely different, more horrific connotation.
While in prison, he read Mahatma Gandhi. In any case, Mandela was aware of Gandhi's struggle, his contribution. The very fact that Mahatma Gandhi himself spent close to 23 years in South Africa, staying back there after that experience of being thrown out from the Pietermaritzburg station from the first class compartment. And that actually also changed the course of history. Gandhi staying back, mobilizing the people, speaking up against racial discrimination. In 2007, we had the Satyagraha Centenary Conference. That was 29th and 30th of January. And Mandela, in his address to that conference, attended by literally the who's who of the world leaders, with the heads of states or governments or former heads, but also many Nobel laureates, political activists, among others, had described Gandhi as a sacred warrior.
In his famous article, Sacred Warrior, in Time magazine about Mahatma Gandhi, Mandela wrote, "India is Gandhi's country of birth, South Africa his country of adoption. He was both an Indian and a South African citizen. Both countries contributed to his intellectual and moral genius, and he shaped the liberatory movements in both colonial theatres. He's the archetypal anti-colonial revolutionary. His strategy of non-cooperation, his assertion that we can be dominated only if we cooperate with our dominators, and his non-violent resistance inspired anti-colonial and anti-racist movements internationally in our century. Both Gandhi and I suffered colonial oppression, and both of us mobilized our respective peoples against governments that violated our freedoms." He later also said that he could never reach the standard of morality, simplicity and love for the poor set by the Mahatma, and that while Gandhi was a human without weaknesses, he, Mandela, was a man of many weaknesses.
Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela were teaching similar values in different languages with different backgrounds and different experience. Now look at it, Mahatma Gandhi also comes from South Africa, and by the time he lands in India, some of the experiments in his early life, in political career, it is a South experience of Mahatma Gandhi was shaping his political philosophy. There he set up Phoenix Ashram, etc. and others. His satyagraha started when he was thrown out of the train. And here is Nelson Mandela, product of the same country. His experience was worse because he was suffering discrimination and worse than even the Indians in South Africa were suffering at that time.
As their protests continued, the ANC's membership grew from 20,000 to 100,000, and the government responded with mass arrests, introducing the Public Safety Act 1953 to permit martial law. In the early 1950s, Mandela was also influenced by the anti-colonialist thought of Jawaharlal Nehru.
The Indian National Congress itself had an influence in the formation of the African National Congress as the largest political movement in a country which was colonized. ANC was formed, say, 27 years after the Indian National Congress, close to that. And it has throughout been a close relationship. The leaders have engaged with each other and also stood united in action when it came to the rights of the people and their freedom.
Mandela worked as an attorney for the firm Ter Blanche and Briggish before moving to the liberal-run Hellman and Michel, passing qualification exams to become a full-fledged attorney. In August 1953, Mandela and Oliver Tambo opened their own law firm, Mandela and Tambo, operating in downtown Johannesburg. The only African-run law firm in the country, it was popular with aggrieved blacks, often dealing with cases of police brutality. With the involvement of South African Indian Congress, the Coloured People's Congress, the South African Congress of Trade Unions, and the Congress of Democrats, the ANC planned a Congress of the People. A freedom charter was drafted calling on the creation of a democratic non-racialist state with the nationalization of major industry. The charter was adopted in June 1955 at the Kliptown Conference attended by 3,000 delegates.
So it's important to recall that the ANC had adopted the Freedom Charter at Kliptown, near Johannesburg. That was in 1955, on 26th of June. But he could not be present, though he was the author, because he was under ban orders.
Police cracked down on that event, but it remained a key part of Mandela's ideology. In 1956, he received another ban on public appearances, restricting him to Johannesburg for 5 years, but he often defied it. His first marriage to Evelyn broke in May 1956. She had claimed he had physically abused her, allegations that he denied, but when she wanted reconciliation in 1958 he filed for divorce. He was then courting Winnie Madikizela, who he married in June of the same year. She too became involved in ANC activities and like him was imprisoned several times.
That day is not far when we shall lead you to freedom. Am I answering?
In April 1959, militant Africanists, dissatisfied with the ANC's United Front, founded the Pan-African Congress. One of the PAC's organized demonstrations was fired upon by police, resulting in the deaths of 69 protesters in the Sharpeville massacre. In solidarity, Mandela publicly burnt his pass as rioting broke out across South Africa, leading the government to proclaim martial law. Inspired by Fidel Castro's movement in the Cuban Revolution in 1961, Mandela co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, also called the MK. It became the ANC's armed wing. The MK was responsible for a bombing campaign against government targets
as a defensive measure. But even then, we made it clear that we are a peaceful organization, preferring peaceful methods.
In 1962, Mandela was arrested, convicted of sabotage and conspiracy to overthrow the government, and sentenced to life imprisonment in the Rivonia trial. Mandela served 27 years in prison, first on Robben Island and later in the Pollsmoor prison and Victor Vesta prison. Mandela and his co-accused were in Robben Island for 18 years. Isolated from non-political prisoners, Mandela was imprisoned in a damp concrete cell measuring 8 feet by 7 feet with a straw mat.
He had a small cell like this, and only one window was there, his view to the world. That's all. Years he spent in that solitary cell. Years. I've been to that prison and that cell. That island itself is about half an hour, 40 minutes by boat from Cape Town. And the sea is very choppy. And around the island there are a lot of sharks. So no prisoner could escape.